This is the 80s Show on iHeartRadio.
Say ho, ho, say ho, 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 ho. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Say ho, ho, say ho, whoa, ho, whoa. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
You know, for the life of me, I fail to understand some of the very basic points of human nature. Like if I talk to any one of my friends, any one of my coworkers, just any human being on the face of the planet Earth, there's a very good chance that they see themselves as an individual, a fully formed individual. We want to feel individualistic. We want to feel like we are the actualized me, especially in America. If you go into a bookstore, what few of them remain in this world. If you go into a bookstore in America compared to a different country, the amount of self-help books in an American bookstore is rather large by comparison to everywhere else in the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be the very best you can be. There's nothing wrong with wanting to help yourself. It's that spirit of enterprise, that can do, that get up and go, that I think is part of the American culture that is reflected in this tremendous amount of self-help books in the average American bookstore compared to any other bookstore in other parts of the world. And that's great and that's cool. But we're very into ourselves in America. We're very into me, I. I'm going to actualize this for myself. And, well, that's great. I am all about the power of the individual. That's kind of what this show's all about. Not self-help, but all about you. You know what's in your heart. You know what's in your mind. You know what's right when it all comes down to it. You're smart enough. So why are we so proud of the individuals we are, yet so hyper-focused on being joiners, on trying to find people that act, talk, think the way we do, and just hang out with them? If we have such respect for our own individualism, why do we piss all over anyone else's when we meet it? I believe in being an individual, except for that person, because they're not like me. If they were like me, that's the type of individual they should be. It's this weird paradox that is alive and well all over the world, but especially alive and well in America, I think. It's become more and more pronounced over the years, thanks in part, or thanks mostly to, I think, the interwebs. The interwebs are a fantastic thing in so many ways. Knowledge at your fingertips. Being able to figure out exactly where you want to go to eat whatever the kind of food that is that, tickles your palate's fancy that day. Sundays, I like to just figure out what I want to eat and then Google best whatever. Best pancake, best chicken, best salad, best whatever the hell it is that I want. I want to know what the best is and I want to know where I can go eat it. I love that. The interwebs is so cool for that. I love being able to get knowledge at your fingertips. I love knowing exactly how long it's going to take me to get there given the traffic. All of that is freaking fantastic and wonderful. But one thing that digital media does, Facebook, Google, all of the above, is it brings people together that think alike. Now, that too, in some ways, is incredibly valuable. Look, people that feel alone, I don't know, maybe a gay kid in a small town that gets his ass kicked on a regular basis. Maybe he finds companionship on the internet that makes him feel less alone, more secure, more okay with himself or herself. You ever watch that documentary on bronies, the guys that are into My Little Ponies? The internet has managed to connect them to other people that make them feel at home, comfortable with themselves, when they've been they've been cast out by a lot of their friends and family because they have this particular interest. Not one which I understand, but man, wouldn't it be horrible if you liked a specific cartoon you really got a lot out of it, and for whatever the hell reason that made you an outcast, that made people throw things at your car because of the decals on it, watch that documentary. It's an interesting one. And the internet being able to connect people like that to one another, well, I do believe there's value in that. Also, harebrained people that believe the craziest, most radical, most extreme ideologies, whether it's on the far Christian right or whether it's on the ISIS beheady side of the spectrum, completely the other opposite end of the room. Whatever the case may be, all you got to do is go online and you can find lots of people that agree with you, no matter what the hell it is you think. And what's interesting is the internet. The internet was supposed to be this thing that was supposed to bridge gaps of understanding, bring people as a whole closer together. And now, because everything's so predictive, because Google wants to connect you with things and people that are exactly like you, so you purchase stuff, you're being put in a room full of people, essentially, that think exactly the way you do. And that's kind of boring. With all this emphasis being placed on being an individual, being connected to a room full of people, being put in touch with a room full of people that keep you in this bubble, keep you in this area where your mind isn't thinking, it isn't learning, it isn't understanding beyond a person's experience who is basically the exact same as you. Well, you're not really growing a whole lot as a result of it, are you? No, you're not. So I would encourage you to seek out people that you maybe don't agree with. I would encourage you to maybe talk to people whose ideologies are a little different than yours and celebrate those differences and realize that they are what makes us as a species great. And we can't let Google, as nifty as it is, take that away from us. Too much agreement kills a chat. Eldridge Cleaver.
Not a fuck, y'all. Not a fuck, I don't give a fuck. Not a fuck, y'all. Not a fuck, no. Adele is so fat, how fat is she? Adele, she is so big and fat that she could get busy with 42 burritos when times was rough. I seen Adele in the back of Taco Bell with handcuffs. Big fatty, big fat fatty, big fat light ass fat filled fatty. The name I like to call it, and it really makes me laugh when you take the first letters of every word it spells but flap. AD, how could you? You're so fucking mean. So every chubby chick on the chubby chick scene, shut up, bitch, get a sense of humor, get out of my hair. And remember, that's not love, it's the 13th eclair. Yeah, it just amuses me when everyone accuses me the right you have to eat. I got the same right to tomfoolery. Fat chicks listen to Adele to hear other fat chicks whine, so I'll call it what I want, I'll do it time after time. Not a fuck, y'all. Not a fuck, I don't give a fuck. Not a fuck, y'all. Not a fuck, I don't give a fuck. You think that I might, but this is how I'm living. No fucks given. Not a fuck, y'all. Not a fuck, I'm probably gonna offend by coming around again. I'll never be told that I'm not allowed to be saying the things I am. You probably wish you were saying something, but instead you're saying nothing. Just because you never had the balls, don't tell me what to say. Shut the fuck up, say the fuck up out my way. What the fuck is your deal? You just mad cause you're gay? And not gay in a likes other men kind of way, but gay in a fucking faggoty ass faggot kind of way. You gotta admit, part of you thought that was pretty fucking funny. So why are you so mad? Because this is how I make my money? Because you wish you could be just a little more like me and not give a fuck and write your own story? You said that you deplore me, but you just can't ignore me. And every time you get in my face, all you do is bore me. And what you really want is just to be like AD. So be my friend and come on, sing it loud with me. Sing it. Not a fuck, y'all. Not a fuck, I don't give a fuck. Not a fuck. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a music to take you back once again. So boy, AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a music to take you back once again. So boy, AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Hey, you, what's that sound? I'm coming so loud from your radio dial. AD, be getting down when you're rocking the jams. Here I am, going back once again. I'm ruling all city like a king.
Bill Cosby's imaginary friend. The one sort of real official response, the one sort of thing that Bill Cosby has said of late outside of his stand-up show, he's remained reasonably tight-lipped. But he produced this he released this kind of weird video yesterday where he's on the phone with an imaginary fan hyping a show. He sits in a chair wearing pajamas, which is interesting because a lot of his victims say they woke up to find him in a bathrobe. Not exactly the same thing, but, similar vibe. And this is the closest thing Bill Cosby has done to speaking out. We'll get into that later. A conversation Bill Cosby pretended to have with his imaginary friend. Right now, though, let's take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. In no way, shape, or form fair. Certainly not balanced. Funkhouser, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And what's going on in the world?
Check 1. Check 1, 2. This mic works. Okay, good.
Oh, okay.
Had a little issue.
Yeah, somebody broke the studio, right?
Yeah. Doing their podcast, moving mics around, pushing, tweaking buttons that are behind the gate.
Yeah. People ought not to do that.
Well, I'm okay. How are you?
Have you recovered? There's nothing more insulting than coming in and finding the studio a mess. Like, it's just like, hey, I'm about to create radio magic here, and
well, it's like somebody, if any job you have a little place you work, right? What if somebody else shared that place and they left all their, hamburger wrappers all over your calendar and grease fingers all over your pens? You wouldn't like it at all.
That's one of the things I hate about radio is just, doesn't matter how big a market you're in, doesn't matter what's going on, unless you're Howard Stern or Rush Limbaugh, or, one of those nut jobs that has, enormous right-wing syndicated talk shows that they do out of their home. You, no matter how big and successful you are, have to use the same microphone that some schlub used just 10 seconds before you. And it's essentially that talking into microphones at radio stations. One of the reasons I go into a different studio to do this show is because I know it's a microphone that no one besides me ever uses. There's engineers and board ops in this particular studio, but nobody else ever uses this microphone, which is good because it gives me a temporary reprieve from that sensation that I'm using a community condom. Radio's weird like that.
Yeah, it's like the same guys who leave the studio in shambles are the same guys that leave the stall half flushed.
Oh, God.
Things everywhere. Come on, man. I ain't your mama.
Yeah. Yeah. It is annoying. And you know what I've noticed? I've noticed that people that dish it out can't take it.
Yep.
You ever gotten a crappy note from someone? I can't. I don't want to throw this person under the bus, but some low-level moron left me a note once being like, make sure this button is pushed like this before you leave the studio. And he is a prime offender for never doing anything close to what we in the business call zeroing the board, putting it back to normal, starting it over. I'll come in and everything will be absolutely screwed up and jacked with, and it takes me 5-10 minutes before I get into the swing of things to fix his mistakes that he was entirely too negligent to do anything about. Yet, one time I leave a button unpushed, I get a crappy note about it. And technically, I'm this guy's boss. When it first happened, I was just like, let me see. Do I light this guy's world on fire, or do I just let it go and recognize the fact that people are effing idiots? And if every time someone was an effing idiot, you lit someone's world on fire, well, we'd all go down in an inferno of my bad temper. And I opted to just go, whatever. But yeah, it's the people that piss and moan the most are the people that I find are the least diligent about leaving the workspace in a workable position for the person coming in after them.
Yeah, and it never bothers me unless it's assumed that I'm the one that's not doing it. Here's a prime example, right? We're a news network, right? We have to break news when it happens and when it breaks and stuff. So there's televisions everywhere, and all these TV stations have news channels on them. Except some dude that uses this studio at night. He watches Cartoon Network and leaves the TV on. So I get here in the morning and people are thinking I'm watching SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, come on with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that does reflect.
I got nothing against SpongeBob SquarePants, but man, I'm hip to the news. I watch the news, not anything else.
Well, you also don't want it to appear as though you've been doing nothing but slacking off all day watching cartoons when everybody